It's been a long journey for Stranger Things, 9 years from start to finish. And you only have to look at how these three cute kids and this other one have grown up over the course of the series to see just how long Stranger Things has been running. The story has been expansive over 5 seasons, but it's always stuck close to home in Hawkins, Indiana. Except for that whole misadventure in California. And that one time a hairy smuggler and a single mom ran a covert jailbreak mission inside the Soviet Union. But all of that is in the past, as Stranger Things brought it all home to finish things right where it started, for an epic conclusion that Season 5 promised to deliver. And they certainly delivered something worth talking about. Just not in the way they probably hoped. Everyone was wondering if they could stick the landing to this whole story. But instead, they kinda shit the bed like Amber Turd. The story's become such a convoluted mess that every plan and scene needs a full roundtable of explanation so the audience has even a modicum of an idea of what's going on or how any of this is supposed to work. Will developed powers because it's convenient for the story, and you know what? Fuck it. Let's give Max powers too. Hopper keeps trying to get himself killed, and then Eleven's trying to get herself killed. Half the season takes place in this Inception dream world. And the whole lead up to the series finale culminated in a coming out party for a character whose sexual orientation is of no importance. And we'll come back to that and more after we get in a quick recap of the story of Season 5. So prepare for spoilers, because we're about to turn things upside down. Hawkins is in lockdown as the military has taken over the town, trying to close off access to the Upside Down and hunt down 11 so they can continue their mutant child slave weapon program. Vecna, aka Henry, aka One, has torn the town asunder and is abducting more kids to take down to Vexstein's Island. The more children he takes, the more he can tear down the barrier between Hawkins and the Upside Down. Will Byers, Vecna's first victim that started all this, has developed powers akin to Eleven's because I guess they need someone beside Eleven to fight off monsters. Meanwhile, Rockin' Robin is fretting about her lesbian relationship that no one would approve of. And she keeps going on long, queer walks with Will where they talk about being different. Eventually, they discover the Upside Down is actually a wormhole between Hawkins and the Abyss, and they need to shut it down. Or blow it up or something. Who knows how it works? It just works, okay? And right at the last minute, when everyone is gearing up for one last showdown with Vecna, one final battle to save the world, Will makes everyone stop what they're doing so he can sit them down and tell them he's different.
I don't like girls.
And that makes him powerful. Max gains powers too, because why not? And Eleven eventually tracks down Vecna, fighting him and the Mind Flayer, destroying both in one fell swoop. The gang sets up the explosives they need to destroy the Upside Down, and they return to the real world, where they're greeted by the military looking for Eleven. Eleven, however, sneaks off and decides to stay behind and sacrifice herself so the military will stop coming after them. And she remains in the Upside Down as it's obliterated, her along with it. 18 months later, things are kinda back to normal in Hawkins and people are moving on with their lives. And during the 40 minutes of resolution in the finale episode, it's teased that Eleven might still be alive. Or that's just Mike's interpretation. Either he's coping, or it's a cop-out by the creators. But we'll never know, and the season and the series come to an end. The story of Stranger Things has just become a mess if you're trying to wrap your head around how any of this is supposed to work. There's such a jumble of supernatural nonsense that's inconsistent, often contradictory, and really just convenient. It just works because that's how they need it to work. They seem to be mostly spinning their wheels with Holly's subplot in the Inception dream world, which detracted from the overall story. The big, bad, terrifying villain was at one point reduced to a blubbering mess having a telepathic therapy session with Will, before he and the Mind Flayer kinda went down easy like sacks of potatoes. All of which is to say nothing of the fact that this little group of nerdy, problem-solving kids has grown up into a pseudo-militia with unbelievable skills and resources. And Season 5 seems to be the worst offender when it comes to introducing new, poorly explained concepts. As a result, it felt like half this season was reduced to the characters breathlessly trying to explain how things work. And it doesn't help when the other half of the season is riddled with stupid stuff. Like these kids being able to reanimate a corpse like Dr. Frankenstein, or Jonathan and Nancy's big emotional payoff being him telling her he's not proposing to her like he was planning to, which the two of them are happy about, and which they stupidly dub the unproposal, or a long-forgotten, pointless character returning. OMG, Kali from Season 2? Is that you? A character who they brought back so they could kill somebody off without actually killing anybody off. And it was all rounded out with walks where Will and Robin discuss their queer natures and some dick jokes.
And personally, for us, I like dick. Sorry, the washroom. I actually don't even... Never mind.
Hit the dick. Yep. Let's just hope it's not too hard. If it is, I'll soften it.
And who could forget the role that strong women played in this season? 11, Collie, Max, and Nancy pretty much ran the show and did all the heavy lifting while everyone else just supported their efforts. But they weren't the only strong women standouts this season. There were others like Mike and Nancy's wine mom. She was glowing when she faced down a Demogorgon in her wine bar, aka the kitchen. Literal seconds after swatting away a grown man with a golf club, the Demogorgon just stands there patiently and lets the vicious mama bear wail on it with a broken wine bottle. All while she's very drunk, by the way. Will's mom, Joyce, is also given the honor of landing the killing blows on Vecna. And despite Nancy being the fierce, emotional leader of the group, pretty much every idea she has is terrible and it turns things to utter shit.
You sure about this?
No.
Yet she's still basically in charge. It's always her charging in first with a shotgun, firing machine guns, while all the meek men cower in the back. They just tried too hard to sell her as a badass. This season treated her like she was fucking Rambo. There's even a scene where she's patronizing Steve for having the audacity to try and take a gun to a life or death apocalyptic fight. And he has to put the gun down and go grab a spear from the back room. I'll just say that the women of this season have been given a lot of grace. Speaking of grace, as in Will and Grace, Will Byers is gay, as he announced in a show-stopping, breathtaking coming out party minutes before everyone was set to head out toward a life or death, potentially world-ending battle. Everything was brought to a screeching halt, and everyone had to sit down and listen to Will blubber out the epic line that'll reverberate throughout eternity as the defining moment of Stranger Things' explosive final season.
I don't like girls.
He goes on to allude to feelings he's had for Mike for a long time because dudes can't just be close friends in a Netflix show.
And you still think we can be friends?
Friends? No thanks. All right, come on.
And then the captive audience went around and voiced their support for this courageous, breathtaking act a la Spartacus.
And you'll never lose me.
Or me.
Or me?
Or me.
And the funny thing is, not everyone did voice their support, and a few just kind of sat there awkwardly in the back. So I'll take that to mean they don't support Will's big gay journey. The scene was weird and forced enough as it is, but it also didn't really change anything. The show proposed that Will had to do this to be his true self and free up his mind to take on Vecna, but that just felt like a contrivance. It felt much more like they wanted to give a character portrayed by a gay actor a coming out scene. Because it's not like we needed any of this information to round out the character. His sexual orientation is entirely irrelevant in a show like this. They've tried to argue that this is about cementing Will as an outsider like all of the other characters, but he was already a nerdy outcast that went through trauma and turned dour and was called the zombie boy. You didn't really need anything more to identify Will as an outsider. Oh well. It's definitely one of the gayest scenes I've ever seen, so I hope that's what they were going for. Anyway, Stranger Things still looks great for the most part, and this final season was not entirely charmless. And some of the relationships between characters are still enjoyable, and for those few satisfying relationship arcs, it was good to see them brought to their conclusions. But none of that was nearly enough to keep this final season from feeling like a letdown. As of this writing, Season 5 is currently sitting at a 56% rating from viewers on Rotten Tomatoes. That's by far the lowest rating of any Stranger Things season and is down more than 30 points from last season. And it's getting a similar 5.8 on Metacritic. This final season was a hate watch for me, as I felt like the show got bogged down in trying to bring this convoluted story to a messy conclusion, and the coming out party / group therapy session made this season a laughingstock, especially when stacked up against the near decade-long build-up to this. One of the commenters on the HateWatchers Awards video was right. It's a shame this second dump of episodes came out so late in the year, and I used the word dump intentionally, because Stranger Things would have been a strong competitor for the Biggest Waste of Time award. Maybe this season will have to be granted a special exception to be considered for the 2026 awards. Did you check out the final season of Stranger Things? What were your thoughts on how they brought it all home? Let us know in the comments below. And remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers for reviews of other current shows and movies. Thank you for postponing the apocalypse for a coming out party with us today, and I'll catch you on the next one.